Alrighty, welcome back. You have found PA High School Football Report. We are powered by the fantastic folks from OSS Health and, of course, PennLive. They signed the checks, Dan, to keep this prep football machine sort of moving in the right direction, all the way to Chapman Field, which now, Dan, just 3 short weeks away. PennLive's Eric Epler alongside colleague Dan Sosnick. Dan, how are you?
I'm doing well. Early in the morning, but we will survive.
It is very early in the morning. I was a little disappointed in your Pitt Panthers over the weekend.
I could have warned you all. I could have warned you all that this.
Well, you should have warned me all. 10.5 was not enough.
Yeah, when if Pat Narduzzi's team can't stop the run, they're not gonna win a football game. And I mean, the offense was the bigger culprit, but I figured Jeremiah Love was gonna be able to do Jeremiah Love things no matter who the defense is, and that guy's
he's
ridiculous.
pretty good. He's pretty good.
That guy's what ridiculous.
He does.
So
yeah, Notre Dame, the Irish can certainly run the rock.
As Pat Narduzzi said, though, game doesn't matter, right? Didn't matter at all how much.
That's right. He did say that. Yeah.
Didn't matter at all. So we'll see. You win the next 2 games. You beat Georgia Tech, beat Miami. You're probably in the ACC title game. So
that works out.
We'll see.
You can always count.
Hard to be confident after that one.
Yeah, I'm not confident at all in them.
Yeah.
Not at all. Eastern Michigan with another big win. Just throwing it out there for you. Again, we won't be going bowling, but Ypsilanti is just, they're cooler than ever, folks in Michigan. So, all right. Special thanks to, obviously, to our producer, Merlin, a.k.a. Megan Levy-Heaton. She is on the track in the background helping us, look as good and speak as well as we possibly can. Lots going on, Dan, in the prep sports world. We just conducted, obviously, our annual Winter Sports Media Days at HQ. You can check out all the fun photos, videos, boys and girls hoops came through, swimming came through, wrestling came through. All of it is scattered around PennLive.com for the readers to enjoy. All right, there's also a parade I'm preparing for, Dan. We're preparing for PennLive is in some sort of parade coming up on Saturday, the 22nd. I believe it's like a dog theme or a fur thing, something, cats. I don't know what it is. But that's coming up. We're preparing for that. And you're preparing for a special announcement as well, coming up in about 90 minutes. So we got to get you in and get you out. You're a busy man. Lots happening in football, of course. Like 3 more district titles are going to be on the line here over the next couple of days. Friday is a monster day in high school football in PA, and we are going to get to those games, give you some thoughts, some predictions, and obviously our picks. We will get to that in just a moment. We're going to fly through these title games, Dan. We're going to get your thoughts and picks on it all. Plus, Dan got a chance earlier today to catch up with longtime Cedar Cliff coach Colin Gillen. He has intimate knowledge of a lot of these teams who are still alive, teams like Harrisburg, teams like Bishop McDevitt, teams like State College, and he's also got intimate knowledge of Central York. They are involved in the District 3 6A final against the Cougars. So, we're going to get his thoughts on that in just a few minutes. All right, Dan, let's bump right into it. We're going to go right to District 3 final. There's 3 more championships to be decided. All these games are on Friday, and we're going to start with the Hammer 6A squad. Harrisburg Cougars looking for, I believe it is 5 in a row.
Yeah.
I believe it's 5 in a row. They will take on Central York.
Every year I've been at PennLive, so.
Yes. Okay. There you go. You've been here 5 years already?
Yep. As I tell everyone, my first game covering here was Stone Saunders' first game, so that's easy. It's been 4 years, and this is the 5th year.
Easy to clock that. All right. West Shore Stadium at Cedar Cliff.
Yeah.
It's very close to us. And this was the one everybody sort of expected to happen, and it is happening. And 2 awesome squads. Just your initial thoughts on Harrisburg and Central York.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard game to get a read on, right? Because it's Central York, as we've talked about before. They're becoming a little more. It's becoming a little harder to point to their season schedule and say, we still have to see more from them because they are pretty dominantly winning these playoff games too. So obviously they earned this one against Wilson. Was a little tougher than the Colts game, but they just look like the real deal. As we'll talk with Coach Gillen a little bit later, their pace on offense, their ability to run the no huddle and kind of march up and down the field. And I kind of compared it when he was talking about it, that they're not, that a lot of their offense is just kind of, quick out routes. It's kind of simple play design, but they execute at such a high level. It's like having a good jab in boxing. Is what I told Coach Gillen a little later. And then you're going up against one of the most athletic teams in the state in Harrisburg, and a team that even on its worst day can win a game by 20-something points, which I wouldn't say their game against Central Often was their worst game, but it wasn't their best. And they still pretty comfortably won that game. So it's a really interesting matchup. I don't have a great feel in it. I still have not decided who I'm going to pick yet. I'm leaning, obviously, Harrisburg just because the pedigree and the talent there. But I think Central York is a live team in this one.
I agree with you. This is what I've been saying about Harrisburg. I had a lot of questions along the sidelines. I got to cover Harrisburg and their win on Saturday against Manheim Township, 34-7. And a lot of people were asking, what do you think about next week? What do you think about next week? And here's what I've always said about Harrisburg, and I think I've said this numerous times during the season. It is just very, very difficult to consistently move the ball on the ground against this Harrisburg defense. You look at the last couple of games that I've covered, even with them, 39 yards allowed, 42 yards allowed. And we're talking about 25, 26, 26 attempts on the ground, where a point where you're just sort of giving up, trying to run the ball toward in the second half of the second part of the game. And of course, by the way, you're trying to catch up as well. Mm-hmm. So you force these teams into being sort of one-dimensional because of that defensive front, because of guys like Messiah Mickens, who actually came back last week, had another tremendous game. And we mentioned all these guys like Noah Ewell, a linebacker, Isaac Paul Jones,
Isaac John Lewis.
Isaac John Lewis, up front, and just all these names, and we very rarely actually get to talk about the secondary because that front seven guys have been so dominant. Now, if you're gonna beat Harrisburg, you've got to have guys to stretch the field and kind of soften that defense up a little bit. But you also have to get protection to give your quarterback time. That's where Brooklyn Nate comes into play here, because he's so versatile and he's so experienced. He's a 4-year starter at Central York, been a tremendous player for them. So even if that run game isn't working, I think Brooklyn Nate has a chance to do some really good things down the field. Now, that doesn't mean Harrisburg's going to make it easy for him down the field, because we know that secondary is extremely good. So, but I think that's part of the reason why we say, hey, listen, Central has a little bit more of a puncher's chance in this one because of those guys, and because guys like Brendan Smith, and Legend Johnson maybe slipping out of the backfield. So that's what makes Central York the most dangerous. And obviously, I think Janczak did a great job of kind of toughening up their schedule a little bit. They went out to Hoban to play, and that's their lone loss. But they were in that game all the way into the fourth quarter before the wheels fell off in Ohio. So I agree with you, Dan, at all points. I think this is a really intriguing matchup, but you do have to lean Harrisburg just because of all that talent on that defensive side. To me, that's the difference in this ball game. And Central York has really had no trouble moving the ball on anybody, really. I mean, they put up 26 points against Hope. So we will see. But I'm going to lean Harrisburg, I think. But as far as like making an actual prediction, I'm going to need a few more hours to kind of dig into that one and see where we're at. So, yeah. All right, let's move on. We got a District 3 5A championship game. Seneca is going to play Bishop McDevitt. We all know about McDevitt's pedigree, defending state champs, yada, yada. This game is going to be at Warwick High School in Lidditz at 7 o'clock. Who do you like here?
Yeah, again, it's you lean towards the pedigree, right? Bishop McDevitt looks like, again, they're playing their best football at the right time. That defense is just, I keep saying every week, it's so hard to play against a defense that shuts down your run game in the high school level. And
yep.
They just shut down run games. I think against Exeter, they held Exeter to 4 first downs, I believe, 50 something rushing yards, and 20 of them came on one play. It's just like, if you do that, there aren't going to be many teams that are going to be able to pass on you, especially when you have the pass rushers. They're lining up Zach Brown at defensive end now. He's getting to the quarterback. Then you have that linebacking core with guys like R.J. Duffy, Nazir Jones, Davis, Maurice Browns. It's just so tough to get your offense in a mode where it's consistently moving the football. You might be able to uncork some big plays every once in a while, but when you get to the playoffs, you have to be able to keep consistently gaining those 6-yard gains, those 8-yard gains. when you're gaining 1 to 2 yards on run plays, you got no real shot.
Right.
That's what they do to you, especially at the district level. They just make the game so much harder. And Sebastian Williams, Coach Jeff Wechter said he played his best game of the year against
Yep.
Exeter. He only had 2 incompletions all game. Wechter said he was playing on time, which is something that he's struggled a little bit with this year. He was terrific. He got going before the run game got going, which I think is significant because a lot of times these young quarterbacks, they need the run game to get going a little bit before they get going. He kind of set up the run game by delivering on time, delivering against a blitz. And if he keeps doing that, this Seneca team's been terrific this year. I don't know how many people peg them to be in the district title game, but they've been putting up a ton of points, and they obviously have earned the right to be here. They are a better passing offense than a lot of these other teams that Bishop McDevitt has played. Chase Sensenig has, it's not a volume passing offense, but he's thrown 14 touchdowns and 1 interception, so he's really efficient. But this is still a run-heavy team, and if you're a run-heavy team, I'm probably just going to pick against Bishop McDevitt until proven otherwise, or pick Bishop McDevitt until proven otherwise.
Yeah, I think Seneca is facing a daunting task here for all the points that you just mentioned. I mentioned, for a couple weeks now, I think that state college game that Bishop McDevitt played in Week 10 sort of was the kind of game that they were searching for, the all-around game. Not that their run game hasn't been good, not that Sebastian Williams hasn't been good, but I think at times Sebastian would, he threw off his back foot a lot of times, and that's when they would get into trouble a little bit. But this, obviously the margin of victories was still there. But that state college game, sort of everything on offense sort of came together. And you've always relied on that defense. All year long, you've relied on that defense. So I agree with you. I think, Seneca is going to have to be very, very balanced. They're going to have to maybe even catch a lead in this one. I think this is a case where if it's, if McDevitt gets up 14, 2 touchdowns, something like that, I think you're going to take Seneca, out of their comfort zone. And those linebackers you spoke about could sort of pin their ears back a little bit and just might make life hell for the Seneca offense. So, I think you have to lean Bishop McDevitt in this one. But you're right. I don't think anybody thought that Seneca was going to be in the championship game. I thought New Oxford would get by them last week, and of course that was almost a 30-point game. So Seneca is obviously a quality program, tough kids, and they're just going to have to play their absolute best to have a shot in this game for all the reasons we talked about. So, all right, well let's not waste any more time, Dan. We talked about Harrisburg, we talked about Bishop McDevitt. Let's bring in a guy, a longtime head coach, one of the best head coaches we have in the Mid-Penn. And he gave us a few minutes to talk about some of these teams that are still alive.
You can also, tell why he's one of the best coaches. He the insight he gives you on these teams. It's not cookie cutter stuff. He
Right.
really, you can tell this Cedar Cliff staff does a lot of film work on a lot of these teams, and we really appreciate him giving us some time.
Absolutely. Let's check out Dan's interview with Colin Gillen.
All right, we're here with Cedar Cliff football coach Colin Gillen, coming off a really strong year, second year in say for the Cedar Cliff Colts, and they picked up their first playoff win. Colin, thanks for joining us early in the program and giving us some insight on your guys' season and then some other seasons as well across the conference. We really appreciate it.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, so we'll start over there in the West Shore. Obviously, a little bit of it was kind of one of those rosters, right, where I think you had a lot back, but you were missing some. You graduated some players at some key positions, some players along the line. Quarterback, so obviously PJ Denton over at Harrisburg now. Going into the year, were you confident this was a group that was going to be able to get to the playoffs? And obviously you guys took a big hit week one, were able to bounce back from that. But what was the confidence level going into this year, second year in 6A?
Yeah, I don't know if confidence is the right word. Mm-hmm. I knew that we had some good players coming back. I saw a lot of potential with our offensive defensive lines. I thought we were pretty strong in the trenches, which is always a good building block. Obviously when you graduate a kid like Bennett Seacrest, who was a 3-year starter for us, that's always a concern, but I saw a lot of potential with Gillen. I thought he really grew. Really, really proud of the kids in terms of their leadership this year. Dropping that, getting clipped by Redland in week one. Our season really could have turned south probably in a hurry. And those kids really manned up. We got it out a couple really good victories, and then towards the middle part of the year, we were playing really good football. Then we got banged up a little bit with injuries, but we're able to get a home playoff game, which was cool, and the kids performed well, in that playoff game. This division that we play in is just a meat grinder. It's tough for us to match up a lot of weeks, but I thought the kids grew as the year went on. They were extremely resilient, which is what you need to be.
Yeah, because I was there at that Harrisburg game, and you guys were really battling Harrisburg. Obviously, some people have them ranked the best team in the entire state. You guys battled them for a half. Obviously, things kind of snowball a little at the end. That's what happens against teams like that, But it felt like this group had you kind of mentioned it had really good leadership. Interior, in that locker room. I know Will Coker's been a long time starter for you guys. You have some other seniors as well. Can you talk a little bit about that senior core and those group of guys? I was at that senior. You had a lot of seniors walk down. Obviously, your son as well. Can you talk about that group and what they meant to this program, especially like you said, keeping things on track after what could have been a pretty disastrous week one loss?
Yeah, those kids have played football together for a really long time, and they are really, really close. The brotherhood. I think it was never an option for them to turn on each other. They were consistently in each other's corner, playing for each other. And I think it really showed, like that Harrisburg game, we know what we're up against, going into that game. We really moved the ball up and down the field in the first half. We just couldn't punch it in. I think it was 3 red zone opportunities. We came away with nothing.
Blake had a near catch there in the end zone that I thought was pretty close too.
Yeah, that's a different discussion. But so we missed a field goal. We had that play. So a lot of different things go our way, and that game's a 14-14 game or a 14-10 game, and then in the second half, may have been different. But obviously we were proud with the kids how they battled there. But this group of seniors, man, their leadership is just exceptional. It's kind of a clinic on they are just so resilient and they play for each other, which was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, and I think the exciting thing for you is that with that big class, you still have some key players who got a lot of reps this year that kind of, I don't want to say emerged, but kind of take big steps forward. You mentioned one of them, Jalen Hinton. I came in really impressed in the couple games I watched him. He seems like he's got a lot of tools that are going to make, a very good quarterback. And then Landon Howell was just obviously terrific at running back. How excited are you from what you have returning next for the future? You're going to have to replace some key players, obviously, but the guys that are coming back feel like they kind of give you a nice little floor for next year as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pieces are there. Certainly, I'm excited to see what Jalen does here with this offseason. His growth last offseason was big, and then as the season went on, was pretty awesome. Watching Landon Howell develop, and Marion Archery as a tight end, and Blake Seacrest coming back, as an H-back kind of slash kid. The pieces are most certainly there. We'll need some younger kids to step up, and some new guys on the offensive line. That'll be probably the biggest piece. And then, looking at receivers and trying to get those guys up to speed. But I'm sure that, these guys, they kind of, have an understanding of the work that's required. They understand that the division that we play in, and I think as long as they maintain that mentality, they'll have success.
All right. You kind of mentioned it because one of the reasons also we wanted to have you on is what the nature of playing in that division, right? Is a lot of these teams are still playing. I think you have 3 Mid-Penn Commonwealth teams, and then the team that eliminated you guys is still alive too. So we thought we'd get some, opposing coach view. We hear from the coaches of these teams a lot, but I think it's an interesting perspective for someone that has to game plan for a lot of these teams. So we'll start with the team we already talked about a little bit, Harrisburg. When you're going up against them, they obviously have so much Division I talent, so many guys. What makes them kind of tick, and what's kind of the hardest thing to game plan for the Cougars?
Ultimately, it's the athleticism. A lot of the kids, that are making the headlines, for them are obviously really, really good players. The speed that they have on defense is just unreal, top to bottom. So, and they're not fancy. They're not fancy in what they do. They're very disciplined. They don't play a ton of man coverage. A lot of times you see teams with speed like that play a ton of man coverage. They play a lot of zone coverage, but they're very good at it. And going into that week, talking to your quarterback, it's like, you're talking about windows that you're used to throwing in. Those windows are going to close in a heartbeat. So that's the biggest challenge. Then obviously offensively, they're just so explosive in what they do. So you limit the explosives, you make them drive the field. That's a recipe to try to stay in the game. And we kind of did that in the first half against them, but we're unable to score. And then at that point, we gave up a couple explosives in the third quarter, and that was kind of all she wrote. But yeah, that defense is playing off the hook right now.
Yeah. Is that the challenge of playing against a team like that? Is, that you have to do some of these things for 4 quarters when it's just, one little mistake and things can kind of get rolling a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you saw it a little bit in, their game against Manheim Township. Township is hanging in there, and then they give up the 2 pick sixes. Yeah. The other piece, Messiah Mickens didn't play in the game. Defensively, he's he is a tough kid to game plan for. The previous year, we had some success against them running right at him, making him, defend the run right downhill in his face. If you try to run the ball away from him, that's a terrible idea because he is just so athletic and so fast. The pick 6 that he had is something you don't really see a whole lot of high school players do. So it's very difficult to game plan for that. And until you get out there, you got to kind of get accustomed to their speed and athleticism.
Yeah, man, I didn't realize until looking at the schedule again. You played 3 of these teams in a 4-week stretch. I guess that's kind of the Commonwealth stretch for you. We'll kind of go to the week before then with Bishop McDevitt because. Talking with, people around Coach Wechter, Bishop McDevitt, it's hard for a team like Bishop McDevitt to have a sort of chip on their shoulder, right? But I think some people might have thought they'd take sort of a slight step back with some of the graduations and losing a guy like Stone Saunders. And, they start the season losing their first 2 games to Clarkson North and Harrisburg, but looks like they're the same old team, in 5A that they've been. Obviously Cedar Cliff has played them for a long time. What's kind of makes this specific group of Bishop McDevitt so lethal? To me, watching them, their linebackers and their defensive line kind of make it really hard to run, and that kind of throws a lot of these teams off for a loop.
Yeah, I think McDevitt has always been good defensively.
Yeah,
we've played them for a very, very long time. As they kind of have progressed, they've become a little bit more diverse defensively. They used to play a really, really high percentage of man coverage, which allowed you to be able to game plan and do some things. Now, I would say over the last 5 years or so, they're mixing their coverages a lot, which makes it considerably more difficult. They've gotten a lot better over that span of time of playing zone coverage, which makes them hard to move the football on.
Yeah.
But in the box, in terms of their linebackers are probably some of the better linebackers in the league. And then offensively, they had a situation, obviously they're similar to us where they're trying to, get a new quarterback up to speed, but they just had a stable of running backs, man, that they could just lean on those kids, early on in the year and early on in their schedule. And now the quarterback's playing good football. So I really think they're going to be a tough out. I don't know what they're going to see once, if they're able to win this Friday and get out of District 3. I don't know what else the state, has there for them. But
Richland would be a tough matchup for them. I think that'll be a big one.
Yeah, and so I don't know that we have our hands full here with in our area looking at those teams. So I don't have any idea what those teams have. But I have a hard time seeing I think McDevitt will be a tough out for sure for anybody.
Yeah, and then the team that I feel like we don't talk about as much, maybe because Harrisburg and Bishop McDevitt are such big names, but they're just good every single year. You guys have kind of had your first taste in the last 2 years, and you played them pretty tough this year. Is State College, another team that is switched out. Has a new quarterback that's been playing pretty good football. Obviously, they have Dante Sheffy, who's been one of the best running backs in the state, and I think the one thing everyone knows about State College is how well coached they are. They've got a huge roster. What are the challenges of going up against State College, which obviously won last week and is now headed to Mansion Park this week?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things with State College is their offensive balance. No, they are really good. They run a similar system to what we do. We're probably a little bit more run heavy, but they're a lot of RPO stuff. And they put a lot on the quarterback. I thought their quarterback was exceptional.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Sheffy kid is just like you can't game plan for the kid. I mean, I actually thought our game against State College was one of our better played games of the year.
Mm-hmm.
We racked up a lot of yards. We had a couple mistakes here and there. Threw a pick in the red zone that kind of hurt us. But I mean, we were right there. We took the lead in the third quarter, and then the Sheffy kid, we just can't get him off the field. He's able to move the sticks, and we're defending the run well, but the kid just makes runs. And I think defensively, I think they're consistently getting better. And they mix it up on you. So yeah, I mean, they run some odd front, they run some even front. Which not a whole lot of teams are able to do efficiently, and they are, and that goes back to the coaching piece. It's also helpful to get them away from State College, man. That atmosphere at State College is a tough one. Your kids get a little wide-eyed. Yeah, I mean, you walk down into that bowl there, and they have a big crowd, and it kind of holds the noise and stuff. Like, it's a college style atmosphere, which is really cool to play in. But sometimes your kids are a little wide-eyed there, and they always play really well at home.
Yeah, for sure. And man, going through this, it's like you guys played 12 games this year, and 4 of your games are against teams that are in the district semifinals or in state college in some states. It's crazy how tough 6A is in District 3. We'll end with the team that eliminated you guys, a team that's had an incredible season that I think has to be among the most anticipated Friday games this week is Central York. I feel like a lot of our talk with Central York is they're playing in the York Adams League, right? So they have a couple challenging games, but it's not like playing in the Mid-Penn Commonwealth, right, where you guys are battling each and every week. And, heck, a team like Chambersburg that doesn't even make the playoffs can give some teams tough times. But they have looked every bit the part in the postseason so far. Obviously, a ton of explosive players on offense, and that defense is playing really well. What were your impressions going against the Panthers?
Yeah, so what they do offensively, what Coach Janchik does in terms of their no huddle stuff is executed at a level that you don't often see at the high school level. You get in a situation like in our game where we knew that they were going to be explosive offensively, but it also puts a lot of pressure on your offense because you got to get first downs. So early in that game, we had 2 opportunities to convert on third down, and we didn't. And they get the ball back, and they just go fast. Like, if you let them get a first down, they are going at a blistering speed offensively with their no-huddle stuff. So it really puts a lot of pressure on your defense, but then also on your offense. And one of the things that really pops off the film at you is they're just so darn efficient. Like, you just don't see them making a whole lot of mistakes offensively. So their operation is so good, like completing hitches, completing comebacks, things that you look at as routine. You're like, oh, well, they're not doing a whole lot of things that are fancy, but they don't have to because they are so crazy efficient at doing those little things correct. And then, their game against Wilson, the running back really started to get going. He's a really explosive kid. So if they can get that run game going, and then also on top of that continue what they've been able to do in the passing game, they're a scary team to defend. Now, obviously, we talked about Harrisburg earlier. If anybody's up for the challenge, it's going to be Harrisburg just because of the speed that they have had. And Central York knows, like, they know they haven't seen a defense that good this year. So I think it's a really intriguing matchup to see, who wins out there. And the team that wins, I think, is going to have to score points. I really do.
Yeah.
Harrisburg too. I think Harrisburg sputtered a little bit offensively towards the end of the year here. I don't know that they can do that against Central York and win that game. I think they're going to have to score some points.
Yeah, that's sort of my read too. Is I kind of feel this game's going to be in the 20s for maybe both teams. It just is, like you said, such an interesting matchup. And I know Central York holds their last loss to Harrisburg when I think they were higher seeded, and Harrisburg just came in and kind of ran through them a little bit. But Brooklyn Nace has been through. I think he's had 30 touchdowns and 1 interception. It kind of speaks to that efficiency you're talking about. It's almost like like when a boxer isn't like a power puncher, right? But just has a really good jab, and it might not be all these super flashy plays, but it really is hard to beat when it's on.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt. And the receiver they have there's 1,000-yard receiver. Like that's exceptional in high school. You don't see a whole lot of 1,000-yard receivers. So that's
Yeah.
they definitely have some punch offensively.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is why we wanted to bring you on because we love hearing from coaches, talking the X's and O's and stuff more than just kind of circling the names on the roster. So before we let you go, Coach, we appreciate again your time coming in early in the morning. Want to give you a chance to talk about what you're doing this winter. I heard you have heard you're got a little extra coaching gig going on.
Yeah, Coach Wyatt asked me, our head girls basketball coach, said he had a position at the junior high basketball that he was looking to fill, and he asked me a couple times about it. He finally got me to say yes. But it's been a great time. It's been enjoyable. I'm kind of learning on the fly. But sports are sports. It's all about spacing. It's all about the fundamentals and those type of things. So.
Which NBA or basketball coach is your coaching style most similar to?
Oh God, I don't know. I'm not a big NBA guy.
Yeah.
I like college basketball. I'm a Michigan fan, so I like college basketball.
All right,
But
we'll call you Dusty May then, or whatever.
yeah, okay, fine.
Dusty May of the West Shore. All right. Well, thanks again, Coach Gillen, for coming on. We appreciate your insight as always. Good luck with this girls basketball season, and then get ready for football in a couple weeks, and as well as getting your son Josh ready for college. It should be a big one. So busy times, I imagine, in the household.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me on.
Awesome.
Okay. That was Cedar Cliff head coach Colin Gillen. Excellent information on some of these teams that the Colts took on during the season. Another successful season for Cedar Cliff. And, moving into the Commonwealth 2 years ago and having to traipse through that gauntlet is not easy. We all know that.
How about 33% of your schedule being in the district district championship game or district championship games? It's insane. It's insane.
It is absolutely insane. Yeah, for sure. All right, Dan, we got a couple more games to get to before we get out of here. Okay, the District 3 4A championship. I think everybody was hoping, probably since like week 3 or 4, that this game would happen. And it is happening. You've got top seed Susquehanna Township going against the number 3 and Twin Valley, who just happens to be my number 1 in the state rankings in 4A. This game will take place Friday night at Elko High School at 7 o'clock. All right, Dan, let's break this one down.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying I've thought that this Susquehanna Township team had a legitimate chance of winning a 4A title.
You have been, yes.
And the chance is now here, right? It's they won probably you could argue, right, the biggest win in Susquehanna Township football history I'm not a Mid-Penn historian, but I can't imagine you have many bigger wins than a buzzer-beating touchdown against the perennial 4A powerhouse Missing at home. To come off that and then go up against a Twin Valley team that I imagine a lot of people are picking against them, picking against the Susquehanna Township against this high-flying Twin Valley team. We saw last week Twin Valley go down 14-7 and then just completely flip the game and turn into a blowout in the blink of an eye, which I think tells you honestly more than if they hadn't trailed at all. Like I think that tells you so much about the team that it's like nothing can really phase this group. Yeah, I think that Susquehanna Township has proven, that they're ready for this moment. That they have a quarterback who's ready for this moment. They have a bunch of skill position players who are ready for this moment. Joe Heaton has talked a lot about the football maturity of this group, and they're going to need that in this game because they're going up against another football mature football team. I'm so interested to see how this game turns out. I could see it going a lot of different ways. I imagine Twin Valley's going to be lined as the favorite, but I really think the Susquehanna Township team is going to make life tough for the Raiders.
Yeah, I was sort of digging through this one earlier, and for me, it comes down to 2 key components here. For Susquehanna Township, the difference really in the Missing game. Obviously, the unbelievable play by Torrin Evans to scramble to buy time. He looped around once or twice. It looked like he was on some sort of ballet, thing, and then delivering to Josh Negenti for the game winner as time expired. But his ability to run the football is something that Twin Valley should be worried about, because that has been the difference for them all season long. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he's a poor passer or anything like that. I mean, he's got 2,700-yard passing yards, I think 32 TDs. But when you have a quarterback who has those kind of numbers and 800 rushing yards, you could play perfect defense and he slips to go boom and moves the chains, and it's just demoralizing. It deflates you as a defense. So Twin Valley has to hem him in. If they want to win this game, they have to hem him in and force him to throw. I know that sounds scary because you've got Negenti, you've got Jared Kern, you've got these guys on the outside, Steph Millette, who can really fly, really get open, and really hurt a defensive secondary. But you've got to keep Torrin Evans in the box. Mm-hmm. The other thing is that the front 3 to 4 guys for Susquehanna Township have to play the best game they've played all season, because Twin Valley's going to want to lean on you. This Twin Valley team reminds me of like the Saban Bama years. You know, you get a little lead, you get a 10-point lead, and then all of a sudden the lean happens. And no matter what you do, no matter how many guys you throw in the box, they are going to run downhill on you. And that's Twin Valley. They're going to they're going to play to those guys up front. They're going to just gash you. And I'm not sure Susquehanna Township has seen, and even though they have a good schedule, has seen this kind of a rushing attack and this kind of strength up front all season long. And that includes last week against Wyomissing, was pretty damn good. So those are the two big keys for me. I think you're right. I think Twin Valley's probably going to be installed as a slight favorite in this one. But it would not surprise me to see Susquehanna Township win their first title. And it would not surprise me if Brett Myers comes back and dings the Mid-Penn squad and wins their first round. So
I just want to say, though, I tweeted it on Friday, but it's pretty cool to see what Susquehanna Township has done this year, because those kids really went out on a limb. I mean, you know, because if you think about what they did, and they went to the school board meetings and they vouched for Joe Heaton. They said, we want Joe Heaton to be our coach. Imagine if Joe Heaton doesn't come back. You know, that is a chance to be a really awkward situation, you know, where these guys all publicly said that they want this guy to be the coach and they have a different coach. It's like Torrin Evans. I mean, they're leaders of this group, and they stuck their neck out for their coach. And I think it's so cool that I think it was a kind of symbiotic reward where they followed that up with getting as far as, you know, this team's been before, and getting to a district title game, going undefeated, playing some of the best games Susquehanna Township has ever played. I think it tells you a lot about this group. This group's been fun to cover for the last 4 years, because you've kind of seen them grow up, right? You've seen Torrin Evans grow up. You've seen Jared Kern grow up. You've seen Zykeir Leaks grow up. You've seen Yendor Mack grow up. To see these guys kind of come through like that after an off season where they really stuck their neck out for Joe, I think was pretty special.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, this season could have been derailed, really. You know, you probably, you know, this thing all happened in the off season, so you could have had kids transfer. You know, because they were so deterred from all the crud that was going on. But it just goes to show you, man, that, you know, there are storybook seasons like this. Yeah. And again, if they do beat Twin Valley and win a district title, man, that is the storybook ender, right? It really is. I mean, yeah, you got 2 more games to play to maybe get one a state title, but this would be massive for that program and also for that community. So Twin Valley has a lot to stop.
And as you said, Twin Valley's your number 1 in 4A in the state. Yeah. If Susquehanna Township wins this, then you start looking at the big picture, right? Because then you're really close. You can taste it, and you can taste getting to Chapman Field. And I imagine if they got to Chapman Field, there would be a sea of red in those stands. So
I would hope
a pretty special moment.
I would hope so. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Dan, we still have a couple Mid-Penn squads. Now they're officially in PIAA games. They're through their districts, of course. Just real quick, who do you like? Pittsburgh Central Catholic versus State College. That's a 6A quarterfinal.
I would love to pick State College in this game. I really would. But that Central Catholic team is just so freaking good. It all starts with that offensive line, right? I think think it's been well publicized. Everyone on that line is above 285 pounds. I had egg on my face last year picking them to beat St. Joe's Prep in the state title game. But the reason I did that was they have such a deep roster every year. And, it'd been a couple years. I don't want to say down years, but not, they had big years like 5 or 6 years ago before. It feels like this program is back to being a machine. And I just have trouble. If any coach could do it with kind of an you don't want to say state college underman because they have a huge roster as well, but a little less high end talent, it would be state college because Matt Lintle's one of the best coaches in the state, and Deontay Sheffy's playing out of his mind right now. But I just have to lean Central Catholic.
Yeah, I agree with you. And this has not traditionally been a good spot, meeting the Whitfield champ. State College meeting the Whitfield champ, traditionally at Mansion Park Stadium, which is where this game is Friday night, 7:00. We know it's going to be cold. It's probably going to be snowing. It usually is in late November in Altoona. But, State College has to be as balanced as they've ever been to kind of give Pittsburgh Central Catholic everything they can. But you're right. You have to really go in there. And they are going in with a full head of steam, but so is Central. And this is going to be a tough bout. Either way you slice it. I don't see either team running away from the other, to be honest with you. I think State College has enough to kind of take this to 4 quarters. But this Central Catholic team is, man, they are strong. They are strong up front. And it's going to take best effort to get this game into the 4th quarter for SC. All right, 2 more games, Dan, before we get out of here. Newman-Goretti versus Trinity, Exeter Township High School, 7:00. This is a 3A quarterfinal. Newman had a bye last week, so they should be well rested in that kooky sort of District 12 area in 3A. And of course, Miami. Trinity came up with a big win over Berks Catholic to win the 3A title in District 3. So who do you like here?
Yeah, I think Trinity's been a terrific story this year. They just, under Kevin Yarnovich, as we said, it really just feels like they are becoming a full-on program, right? Where they just find guys to fill roles, and everyone knows what they need to do. It's so well defined, and winning a shutout in a district championship game is a big deal. But I think that when you get a team like Newman-Goretti that's, going to be pretty high powered. I know 8-4 in District 12 is a pretty good mark coming out of, playing that level of competition. I just think it's going to be a uphill battle for the Rocks. If they keep this game low scoring, I think they'll have a chance, but because I think that defense can continue to, kind of play teams tough, play teams physical. But if this game gets into the 20s or so, I'm a little nervous about this matchup.
Yeah, the Saints have really been coming around too. They're getting, they're sort of healthy now. They've figured it out. They lost their starting quarterback in week 2, I think it was. So it took them a while to sort of figure things out, and obviously with a tough schedule as well. Their freshman quarterback, Marquise Colt's been really, really good. And they've got 2 really good rushers. They're both over 600 or 700 yards, something like that. And I agree with you too. Like, Trinity's played a lot of football. And Newman's obviously, sitting there 8-4. They've got 1 less game, but having that bye, I think, was important for them. I mean, it really is, especially this time of year. So I think Trinity can hang in this one for a long time. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Shamrocks come out of this one, to be honest with you, because I think they're playing with just a boatload of confidence right now. And like you mentioned, coming off a shutout in a district title game. I mean, that doesn't happen very often. So Trinity definitely has a shot here to move on, and that would be very, very impressive. But you've got to be complete. You've got to be disciplined. Hopefully the weather is good. That would be key for them to kind of keep that passing game, that connection to Jarzynski alive, because that can do a lot of damage, especially against a Newman team too, which is going to be fast. They play fast and physical. So we'll see. All right, last but certainly not least, Steel High is still alive. Of course, Steel High is alive. It's the state playoffs. 6 straight district titles for Steel High. They won that a couple weeks ago. Now they get the Southern Columbia Tigers, and you know who the skipper is, Pennsylvania's all-time winningest coach, and Jim Roth, who just stunned Troy last week, 42-0. That was something that nobody saw coming, the margin of victory. I don't think many were fended off by the win by Southern,
No.
because Southern, that's what Southern does this time of year. But 2-0 over Troy, a team that had been winning by 50, posting 50 points a game, and most of us had Troy ranked 1 or 2 in the state. I had him at 2. Southern, I think, was 5. So I think the victor is not a huge surprise, but the margin was.
Yeah, and now we get a matchup between two of the perennial powers of this last 10 plus years in PA. What's the combined state title total? 9 in the last 10 years or something
In the
between
last
these.
10 years, yeah, you've got 4 and no, you got 3 and yeah, I think it's 9. I think it would be 9, right? Yeah.
So it's it's a clash of titans. Obviously these are a little different teams than their state title teams, but they're both
Right.
kind of in these weird positions where I think people kind of overlook them now because it's not the state title cores that they won with, but they're still pretty darn good teams. And I think right now you probably lean towards Southern Columbia because that win over Troy was just so impressive. But Steel High's some of their athletes are so good. I've been hyping up Jerome Ross all year. He's just been one of my favorite players to watch this year, the running back for Steel High. You have Nishawn Ward McMullen, you got Angel Luciano, quarterback Cole Caden Stevens he's had some big moments. Silas Hernandez is a big time athlete as well. They've got athletes that on the right night, I think they could win this game by 14, two touchdowns. It's just going to be, can they limit those penalties that have kind of plagued them a lot of the year? A lot of those pre-snap penalties, which I think if any team's going to have excuse for pregame penalties, it's the team that doesn't have the stadium to practice in and has to figure out ways to kind of has basically been dealt a bad hand all year. But now's the time where you got to cut those out if you're going to be a team like Southern Columbia.
I agree. Pack this one away, Dan. Between these two squads, 50 district titles. 50. Steel High is 18, Southern Columbia 32.
That's a lot.
That's amazing.
I don't think I'm going to win 50 of anything in my life. I don't think I'll win 50 chess games in my life.
Hopefully you win 50 free tacos at Taco Bell. That worked for you.
That is true. I might have already hit the 50 rewards. So
yeah. Punch that card, baby.
Yeah.
All right, that'll do it for this edition of the PA High School Football Report. A final thanks to Coach Gillen at Cedar Cliff, and of course to Megan and my favorite Pitt alum. Folks, timer running out to grab every piece of fleece you have and get out there and watch some football. We recommend it. For our sponsor, OSS Health, we'll catch you guys next week.